On today's podcast, Montreal versus Ottawa, Montreal versus Consistency, Pittsburgh versus Boston, Crosby versus Ovechkin, Connor McKenna versus the world, and Phil Danault versus the concept of a first-line center. All this and more on FumblePuck. Welcome back to FumblePuck, everybody. It's Ashley and Noah here. Ashley, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I am wonderful. I do want to start off before we dive in and have some fun. Take a little serious moment to say that our hearts go out to the Vancouver Canucks and their team. There's a lot of players and staff on their COVID list right now. And hockey aside, you never want to see that happen to someone. So we wish them all the best.
Yes, we do. Exactly. Same as you. And I just really hope everyone's okay and that they recover quickly. And that's really scary. And the Habs are really, really lucky that they only had one player get affected by this because, eesh.
Yeah, it spreads like wildfire. Like right now, I'm in Ontario. We're locked down right now, right? It's upsetting because people aren't really taking it seriously outside right now. Like outside work today, people are walking all over the place. Not a mask in sight, and we're just trying to get on and be safe. So the world's a little upside down right now, right? I
was actually just reading a thread on Twitter from a doctor who was saying that two people that she knows who have had the Pfizer shot have been diagnosed with COVID. And again, as I said in the other podcast, just because you have it doesn't mean you're like the shot doesn't mean you're not going to get the disease. It'll make it hopefully not as serious. So the variants, especially, like it's crazy. Wear a mask wear two masks and stay safe and don't go out unless you have to. We're going to be heading for like a full on lockdown. I have a feeling this week. Our numbers are getting up there. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about a time where we can do a podcast and not have to reference COVID. That's going to be wonderful.
Maybe in like 2023. Maybe.
Yeah. You know what I've been watching lately, since obviously I'm not going out ever? I've been watching Criminal Minds again. You ever watch Criminal Minds?
I don't, but my mom does. Hey, Mom.
It's a great show. It's on Disney Plus now, and I've been like catching up on all the old seasons and watching some like the key story arc episodes. It was a nice little change of pace in my TV viewing schedule.
Nice. I watched The Vow, which is about a cult, but it's you watch actually, Criminal Minds isn't very lighthearted either, so never mind.
There are cults in Criminal Minds sometimes, I'm sure. There must be some like cult-like murders.
I'm sure that's very common in cults, but I actually watch House Hunters International. Have you seen that one?
No, what is that?
It's really funny. So people go to let's say they're moving from Montreal to Bermuda, or they just want to have a second home. So they find a real estate agent in Bermuda who goes and shows them 3 different houses, and they have to pick one that they want to buy. Or rent. But what's funny is that, I'm sure the show's scripted this way, is that they're never happy with the house. So they always have issues with it. So if you really have that many issues, why would you buy it? You know what I mean?
Do they get to do a whole walkthrough and everything before they buy it, or do they just look at a picture of it?
No. They do a whole walkthrough, and then they critique the house and what they like and what they don't like. And they're like, well, this one has it's too white in here. I don't like how white the walls are, and it makes me feel like a hospital. Then the next house which is easy, you just paint it. But then the next house is oh, well, I don't like the location. It's too remote, and I really want it to be near a village. And here we're 42 minutes from a village. And then the third one is they'll be well, I find this house that needs a lot of work, and it's not moving ready, and blah, blah, blah. And then they end up choosing the house that's 45 minutes away and or 42 minutes away. That's remote. And you're but you didn't like it. Why would you choose it? It's just very weird. It's a very strange. There's always something wrong with the house that they take, and you can't always guess which one they're going to take because they always have issues, and you're well, which issue is the least important to you? Anyways, it's mind-numbing, so I like it. But yeah.
Have you seen the trailer for Space Jam 2 or Space Jam whatever the hell it's called?
No, I saw Space Jam 1, the movie, back when it was released, and I don't remember
Great movie.
About it. I don't remember.
Space Jam 1 totally holds up, stands up to the test of time. It's still a wonderful movie. Space Jam 2 looks bad. I'm not sure if it's bad because I'm old or if it's because it's genuinely bad, but it's very clearly a kid's movie. And I'm sure the kids are going to love it, but it just doesn't look as entertaining as the first one.
Did you watch The Mighty Ducks yet on Disney Plus?
I did not. I'm behind on The Mighty Ducks, and I'm behind on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I've only seen one episode so far. I'm so upset right now. I need to catch up bad. But I hear that The Mighty Ducks, I hear that it's great, but it really feels like it's for kids.
It is for kids, but it's so cute. It's such a cute movie. Again, it's Lauren Graham, so it's awesome. But I mean, TV show, not movie. But it's so cute. I've only seen the first episode. I have to watch. I'm waiting for my mom to watch the second episode because we're watching it together. It's like our new Gilmore Girls with Lauren Graham, but for kids, and it's hockey. Whatever. Not even close to the same thing.
If it's like a hockey version of Gilmore Girls, I feel like that's a very Canadian thing to do.
It's not a hockey. Like maybe a little bit. It was filmed in Vancouver too. So.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Was it filmed during COVID?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because Lauren was on another show at the same time, and it's called Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, also a fabulous show. And she was supposed to be doing 2 shows at the same time, but because somebody on the Ducks came down with COVID, she was sent into isolation.
Yep.
And then she couldn't get out in time to do her days on Zoe's, so they had to cancel her role on Zoe's for now.
Oh, wow, that's messed up.
Well, she only had a couple episodes on it to do, but she was saying how they had to literally just write her off, that her character named Joan went to China. That's just where they sent her because they couldn't have her in to do the shoot because she was in isolation or quarantine rather. She was in quarantine. So yeah. So it's kind of crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how that stuff happens, eh?
You know what else is crazy?
What?
Our inability to play up to the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, I know.
Well, I've got some knee-jerk reactions for you. Are you ready for these?
I am, I think. We'll see.
Okay. First one.
Uh-huh.
Brady Tkachuk.
I knew it. Hate him. Oh, I knew it was going to be him. If I had it, I would punch something right now if I could. Hold on.
You know what he did that was really annoying? When he scored his first goal last night and he went, woo! That I don't know why. Normally I love celebrations. That woo got me so angry, I wanted to punch him in the head.
And then they replayed it and isolated the sound so that all you can hear was the woo. Did you notice that?
Yeah, and then Shea Weber wanted to punch him in the head, but Shea Weber couldn't land a punch.
I know. What's up with that, Shea?
We'll be fighting.
Oh my God. I don't like him. I don't want him on my team. I don't like him. I don't respect him. I don't like him. I don't like his face. I don't like his teeth. I just don't like him. I'm sorry. No offense to his family.
He's still going to be the captain of that team.
Which is disgusting. Would you want a captain like that?
I hate it. It's no, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I hate that I have to see this guy for 20 years.
I know. I can't stand it. It's like having Brad Marchand as the captain. And I have more respect for Marchand than I do for Tkachuk. Yeah,
because one's a Stanley Cup winning 100-point player. Brady Tkachuk scores goals, but he also shoots more than anybody in the league. He's just a volume shot guy, right?
Yep. I don't like, and they're so impressed. I don't like truculence though, so that's not my thing. So that's not my kind of player. But
you're never going to work with Brian Burke.
I would never. I just don't like him. There's something about him, and I don't care that Ottawa has him. Stützle's great, but I don't like him. There's something about him. It's do you ever watch Prison Break?
No, but I know what it's about. It's about them breaking out of a prison.
Did you get that?
And then after they break out of the prison, there's still 4 more seasons of the show, so I don't get the rest of it.
It's actually a great show, but
what do you do once you break out of prison? It's not Prison Break, it's Prison Broke.
No, it's a really good show. Watch it. But there was a guy on the show named Teabag, and every time you saw this guy teabag, you felt like you had to take a shower because he was so dirty. And that's exactly how I feel whenever I see Brady Tkachuk. I'm like, ugh, like dirt. Just don't.
So from now on, Brady Tkachuk's official nickname is Teabag.
That's kind of an insult to the guy playing Teabag, who's a great actor, but sure, we'll call him Teabag. So I don't like Teabag, not a fan of Teabag. And
to all you people out there who play video games like Call of Duty, if you know, you know. All right, let's keep going.
I don't play Call of Duty, so I don't know what you're talking about, but yes.
A lot of people are going to get a good kick out of this. It's okay, don't worry. It'll be a good laughter moment. Okay, next up, knee-jerk reaction. Ready?
Yes.
Connor McKenna.
Similar to Brady Tkachuk. No, you know what? I've spoken to him a couple of times. He's a really nice guy to me, like years ago. But his takes lately, I really think he's doing it just to get like people riled up and stuff, which I understand. That's part of his show and shtick and whatever. But really, like, not the time, especially not with COVID. Like, it's not funny. He should be embarrassed by his tweets. And the Habs did an amazing job of containing COVID. The Canucks, I don't think they had an issue with containing it. I think it just spread because that's the variant that they have. And it's just disgusting. I don't appreciate tweets like that at all.
Yeah, and like the thing with Connor McKenna about this in this whole thing was that, so for those who don't know, he tweeted out when Montreal had Armia with his COVID case, he tweeted out some kind of quasi-racist what are the Finns doing hanging out together kind of thing. It was terrible. He got roasted for it, and he eventually deleted the tweet and like gave a half apology that kind of sucked. Well, the Canucks just got some COVID cases, really bad, of course, and he did it again, trying to talk as if the team did something wrong when he's not an epidemiologist, he's not a doctor, he doesn't even know the facts, like he has no idea. It could have come from anywhere. So he ended up deleting his tweet again. But just stop doing that. Stop being an idiot.
He also commented how, he said, like, I deleted the tweet. I didn't realize it was the Brazil variant. Well, it doesn't matter what it is. Who cares what it is? I feel really bad for them. I hope they're all okay. Hockey aside, you could die. It's not a joke. Like, it's terrifying. So I really am not okay with his reactions and his tweets, and watch what you say, because you know what? I've taken PR courses, I've taken marketing courses. What you tweet lives on forever. So be very careful. People have kept the receipts of his tweets. Like they're screenshotted, ready to go for whenever they need them, kind of, right? Yeah, 100%. I mean, all right, next neon knee jerk, all right? Yeah. Expected goals for. Yeah, I know where you're going with this. I don't understand that stat. I'm not a stats person. I know you are, but I understand it. But I don't understand all the analysis and stuff to get to that stat, the analytics and everything. So whatever. I know Gallagher. The good news is, by the end of this podcast, you'll know exactly what it is. Well, that's why I assumed you put it in there, right? Just yeah. And then the last neon knee jerk, just teeing it up. 1C. What's your reaction? Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid. Those are 1Cs. Elite or not, those are 1Cs, and that's what our team desperately needs. Gotcha. Awesome. Okay, so game against Ottawa. I think there's two things. So we obviously lost. It was a kind of a bad game. There are two things I think that stood out to me in that game that I think matter. The first was a lot of bad decision making, and the second was a lot of bad luck. I feel like luck really played into that game too. There were a lot of moments where I felt like we could have scored 7 more goals, kind of, but we didn't. What do you think? I agree with some of that. I don't know if it was luck or if the goalie was just good, but Forsberg kept making. Yeah, he's not good, by the way. Well, he was last night, so I know. I think Price was horrible last night, to be honest with you. He was down early again. He probably should have had 4 of those goals, but I need to rewatch them. As per our team, Forsberg was making saves when he had to, and we just, I don't know, we weren't lucky, maybe, as you said, but I don't buy it. We weren't completing passes. We were disjointed. We really stunk. It was boring and awful and just crap. Remember on our one-timer, you said all you wanted was an exciting game, and we didn't even get that, right? Like it wasn't an exciting game. No, there were a lot of penalties. I feel like whenever these two teams play, you're guaranteed to get a Braden Coburn penalty and a Brendan Gallagher penalty every time. The Gallagher he was the first penalty, right? Yeah, he did. Yeah, no, well, I noticed 8 seconds into the game, pow, bleeding. Yeah, it wasn't really his fault. I mean, it was ridiculous, but whatever. The pie stick. I mean, he's 4'2", but whatever. But Coburn, he takes a lot of penalties, I find lately. Do you find that? I'm not noticing him as much as I was noticing Sherratt at the beginning. But yeah, because you kind of expect it from Sherratt, right? Like a shutdown D, you kind of expect to see him in the box a little more. But right. I challenge you, keep an eye on Brendan Gallagher the next few games. Like he's taking penalties. It's not a good look. It's not like him either. But I hope he's okay, because I know that he got hurt before the third, and then apparently he got hurt again in the third. So I hope he's okay. Sounds like it. I haven't heard anything since, and he's a tough guy, right? So I think we're good. But who knows if he can't play next game? Pow, Eric Stahl. It's happening anyways. How excited are you? So excited. I need to make sure I'm home in time to watch that game. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I have to try, but I do need to be at work. So we'll see what happens there. I might have to miss the first 20 minutes of the game and PVR it and start later. It's tomorrow night, Noah, at 7:00. Yeah, I know. I have a job. Work is important. Yes, it is. I like my job too. So it's not a terrible thing to be there, but I really miss a certain food item from your job. Anyways, it's a great place. Wonderful. But going back to Montreal, going back to the Habs. Yeah.
Do you think there's something like, is this a fire that we should pour gasoline on? Our consistency, like our inability to string together solid games over an extended period. Like, and I know we had 3 good games. Like they weren't amazing games. Like they were good. Do you think it's meant to be worried about that we don't like we're not like Tampa Bay level consistent?
Well, we're not Tampa Bay level roster either, let's be honest. But yeah, I think it is an issue. I think we should be having consistency. I think we are lacking in a few areas. I also think I do think it's an issue. I really do. I think the fact that we can't pull together like 2 wins in a row, we did once since February 1st or something, which was this week. It's a problem. It's a big problem. We need to be a lot more consistent in our games and how we show up every night and how prepared we are. I mean, we were horrible last night. We weren't prepared at all. Did you not? What do you think? Like,
yeah, and it was sloppy, on the back end. And I hate saying it, but like Shea Weber not looking so great, right? Like, I would expect him to not chase the game as much as he was.
I have to tell you that the worst defenseman last night was your boy Petrie. He was horrendous. He was a -5, and he was just, oh my God, he was horrible last night.
Yeah, I'm not like overly concerned about plus minus as a stat. Like it's really shown that it's not as valuable as we thought it was, right? But he wasn't great, that's for sure. I think it's pretty easy to give Petrie a pass considering the last 30 games he's played, kind of, you know. But sure. I agree with you. He was not. That was probably his worst game of the season.
Oh, for sure. But he's still great. Just last night, he was horrendous. Weber wasn't great either. I'm worried about Weber. I really am.
Are you worried about the fact that he's old?
Yes.
And when I say old, I mean he's my age. Damn it.
And I'm older than you, so think how I feel. Yeah, no, he's your age. Oh my God, I feel old. Jesus.
Isn't that crazy? Like Shea Weber's talked about like he's a dinosaur and he's my age. I think I'm a little bit old, or he's like 2 months older than me. I think it is something like we're really close in age, but like, oh my God, everyone says like he's done, he's finished. I think Shea Weber can play out his contract. I really do. I just think they have to be smart with how they use him. And I think he needs to take steps in the off season and his time to adjust his skating. Like the same way Chara did. I think Shea Weber needs to do the same thing. He's got to be a little more fluid. He's got to be a little smoother, a little less tough, a little more positionally sound, you know?
Yeah. How old are you? Wait. I know your birthday is November 22nd, I want to say.
Nailed it.
Awesome. What year?
85. I'm 35.
Yeah. Okay. So he's 3 months older than you. His birthday is August 14th, 85.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure we would have gotten along great in school when he was a jock and I was getting stuffed into lockers.
He would have been the one sticking you into the locker. Get it right.
He probably would have been stuffing me into a locker and being like, "This is leadership," as he closes the door on my face.
I'm sure not. I'm sure he was a nice guy.
I wonder which NHLers were like high school bullies. I'm pretty curious about that now that I just opened up that can of worms.
Me too. I wonder if it was Lucic, Tom Wilson.
You know, or maybe it's like Brian Giunta. Maybe Brian Giunta was like that little bully, you know?
That's the most random one yet. I love it.
I wonder what Brian Giunta's doing now.
I don't know.
I kind of figured he would go into coaching.
Me
I think
too.
that's kind of worth looking into. I wonder. Brian Giunta. Huh.
Give us an update on Thursday, okay?
I will. I'm excited about that. One thing I'm trying to get an update on, but I'm still unsuccessful with. I'm trying to get somebody to answer the question, what does a GM do? The hunt continues. No one's given me an answer. I've asked 2 ask us question mailbags, hoping to get one of them to tackle the question. So far, nothing. So all we know is that GMs trade players, sign players, and watch cat videos. That's it. We know nothing else. Apparently,
Brian Burke's book explains what a GM does a little bit, because my friend was reading it to me a bit, and well, not reading it to me, but recounting to me what was said in there. So you might want to check out that book. I think it's called Burke's Law. Is that possible?
I will look into that. I would definitely listen to a Brian Burke. So I would I'm like an audiobook person. Like I don't have time to sit down and read, but when I'm driving to and from work, I'll put on a podcast or an audiobook. If Brian Burke was narrating his own book, I would 100% listen to it. If someone else is narrating it, I feel like it wouldn't have the same magic.
I'm not sure who's doing it for here. I just know the book is called Burke's Law. I'm trying to figure it out. I know it's available as of October 13th, 2020. but I do not know who's actually narrating the book. It's probably him. No? I think he paid someone to do it.
I feel like he wouldn't have the patience to do it, but I think it's so important. Like, I hope his publicist was like, no, you need to do this because people want to hear your voice, you know?
Right. It's possible.
I found out what Brian Giunta does, and you're not going to like it.
What?
He's a development coach.
Oh.
Guess for which team?
Well, because I'm not going to like it. I'm going to guess it's either Ottawa or Toronto or Boston. One of those three.
It's Buffalo.
I was going to say Buffalo. Oh, I was still going to say Buffalo because that's where he lives. And then
he's a development coach for the team that can't develop people. Oh, my God. Brian Giunta, please be better. No.
Say Buffalo. That was my first thought. Damn.
I loved him as a Hab. I was such a huge fan. Oh, my God. I'm sad to hear that he's like lost in the Sabres organization.
Well, maybe he'll change them around.
Silence. I was trying to hold the silence as long as possible, and I couldn't. It was too funny.
I'm sorry, Brian Giunta. We wish you luck.
Yeah, and we wished luck to Connor McDavid earlier this week as we were talking about our weekend games.
Right.
We want to say thank you, Edmonton, and thank you, Connor McDavid, for beating the Calgary Flames in regulation, thus further securing Montreal's playoff spot. Amazing job. Thank you very much, Connor McDavid. Still mad at you, but hey, a win's a win. I'll take it. Yeah, it was great. He had like 3 points that game, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not surprised. That's Connor.
Yeah. The second game I told everyone to watch was the 1 o'clock game yesterday, Boston versus Pittsburgh. It was a barn burner. Did you see the score in that game?
No, I did not.
It was like 7-6. So there's a little bit of like drama that popped up around this game that made it even more entertaining. So like Sidney Crosby had 3 points, Brad Marchand a hat trick. Like it was a really good game to begin with. Did you see the Brandon Dubinsky tweet?
I did.
Yeah. So, like, I used to hate Brandon Dubinsky when he was a New York Ranger, but then he became a Columbus Blue Jacket, so I was like, you're okay. Like, I never loved him, but he's okay. I know that Columbus played a couple of really hard-fought playoff series against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Dubinsky was the guy tasked with shutting down Crosby. So there's clearly some bias there, and then he goes and tweets out, Ovechkin versus Crosby, it's not even close. Ovechkin's better. Just like digging at Crosby. I think that's so funny, calling him a whiner. Like, I love that Brandon Dubinsky chose to throw shade, even though I think he's probably wrong. Like, I like Alex Ovechkin more, but I really think Sidney Crosby's a better player. Alex Ovechkin's a better goal scorer, but Dubinsky's just being a jerk, and he's like, oh, Sidney Crosby whines. And then Sidney Crosby fucking, you have to cut out the swearing, but Sidney Crosby freaking dove.
I know. Okay, so we don't have to cut out the swearing. Remember, you like the explicit tag. But what's funny about that is Dubinsky writes this out, and I'm reading it, and I'm seeing a lot of people commenting, and I'm like, what's wrong with what he said? It's true. I mean, I'm not saying Crosby's or Ovechkin's better or whatever. I'm not getting into that right now. But Crosby does whine a lot. It's a known fact. He does whine. That's kind of his role. So, I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He doesn't have to whine, but he is an amazing player, and he whines. But he's not wrong, Dubinsky, in what he's saying. I don't know if I'd say I personally prefer Ovechkin more, too. However, I take either one of them on my team in a heartbeat, you know?
Yeah, and I think like there's a reason, like it's not a completely lopsided Crosby is better than Ovechkin. I think there's a healthy conversation to it. I give the edge to Crosby. I like Ovechkin more. Like you can go any way with that, but just the fact that right after he called Crosby out for whining, Crosby dove. It was hilarious.
And the stick was nowhere near him. I'm like, what's he falling for? Like, come on, dude. Oh my God.
And then it was perfect because the third game I talked about was the game today, New Jersey versus Washington. And Washington got peppered by New Jersey. 39 shots for New Jersey, 19 for Washington. But Ovechkin scored, had 2 assists, and they won that game.
What a shock.
Ovechkin's on fire. He's up to 18 goals. He's catching up in the scoring race. Like I'm rooting for him so hard right now. I just want him to score every game.
I love him. He's great. I mean, I feel like he would thrive in Montreal, you know?
I 100% agree. I think that would be the best thing ever.
Yeah, I would love it. Now, I personally prefer Ovechkin, but I think Crosby's a better player too. So They're different players, though. Like, you can't really compare them. One's a goal scorer, one's like a assist guy. So, I mean,
Sidney Crosby does have a Rocket Richard trophy to his name.
well, he's amazing, but they're different players. They're not.
I feel like if Sidney Crosby wanted to be an Ovechkin type goal scorer, I think he would be able to willpower it to happen. That's like one of his things. Like, I think he's a very intelligent, cerebral player, and he's very adaptable.
Yes.
Whereas Ovechkin is good at one thing, but it's the most important thing in the game.
Well, I feel like Cole Caulfield is a mini Ovechkin only in the sense that he also can score at the lower levels, anyways, to be determined. But he can score like at will, and he chooses his spots, and that's the most important thing in hockey to me is scoring. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see Cole Caulfield's passing because apparently he has a very underrated pass.
Yes, I'm so excited that he starts on Friday and that the Habs don't have a game, so I can actually watch it on Friday. I hope it's on TV.
I would be shocked if it wasn't. I'm going to reach out to my buddy and see if it's being televised.
Yeah, let me know because I really want to see it.
Awesome. Those were our games around the league. We're going to jump to a quick word from our sponsors. All those hockey players out there, you guys know what it's like. You're skating around, you're gassed. It's a rough game. You just need a little bit of a pick-me-up. I have this crazy new product for you. It's called H2O. It'll work. It'll hydrate you. It'll make you feel better. No need for that crazy juice stuff you drink. Just high-quality H2O. Try it. All right, we're back. We're setting you up for this week now. We have 4 big tests this week. We play Toronto, we play Edmonton, and we play Winnipeg. Ashley, why are these games so important to us?
Well, these are the teams that are ahead of us for competing for the playoffs. So we need to get to win. We need to win and catch up because we have 15 games in hand, it feels like. And we need to dominate and put together an impressive win streak, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely, right? I think we need to start understanding how these teams operate a little deeper because we're going to be playing one of them in the first round, one of them in the second round, right? So I think it's time, even though these games don't hurt us in the standings as much necessarily, taking them seriously and using it to get some great scouting on the other team, huge opportunity. And I think it's important to see how Eric Stahl fits in with this group now. Yeah,
I'm really excited to see him tomorrow night. I saw him come on the ice today and how Edmondson and Anderson were there, watching and talking to him and cheering him on. And I'm really excited to see him in the lineup. I especially Suzuki has been really, 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 really bad lately. So I'd like to see him, hold him up and help him and show him what to do and maybe alleviate some of the pressure from him,
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm a little bit concerned because it's a lot of games. It's 4 games in 6 nights or something.
Against teams that have abundance, oodles of skill.
Yes, exactly. So if we can copy paste last Tuesday night's game to Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I'll be a really happy Ashley.
Who's our first game tomorrow? Is it Edmonton? Yeah. I really want to see a big, strong showing against Toronto. I really want to beat them. I don't normally care too much about regular season specific wins, but I really want to win this game against them. So I'm going to watch that game and be really, really into it.
Well, that's because your wife is a Leaf fan.
Yeah, but not because of that. I just want to crush them so badly. I want to demoralize them. That's what I want.
Well, I always want that. My neighbor's a Leaf fan, and yesterday he saw me outside and he started telling me how, he's been downplaying the Leafs and saying how they're not very good and they're in first and it's exactly what he wants and no one can catch them because with all the games in hand, it doesn't matter. The Leafs are still ahead. And I'm like, dude, there's 20 something more games to go though. Chillax. And he's like, no, but they're so good. They're leading and they're so amazing. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, we'll see what happens. I'm like, I'm happy for you because you're happy, but I'm like, the Habs are still better, buddy.
I think we have a very unique team this year.
I think so too. In what way do you think it's unique?
I just think we've never had a mix like this before, and I think we're close. I knock on wood saying it, but they haven't been this well positioned to go far in a long time.
I agree. The year with Camilleri and that, it felt like a fluke. This year feels like when they dominate, they dominate. It's not just a fluke. You know what I mean? They can come out of control. And when they do, it's wonderful. And it's beautiful. When they don't, oh my God. But I just feel I don't know. I feel the same as you. I feel like it's a very special blend and a special mix of players this year. And if we can add in Caulfield at some point, we have that elite goal scorer, potentially.
You know what's funny?
What?
So everyone who knows me knows I'm a pretty laid back person, especially when it comes, like, I don't get stressed very easily. Just going through my mind, thinking about the playoffs this year, I feel my blood pressure rising. Like, I'm getting stressed about it. I feel like I'm going to be an emotional wreck the entire playoffs. And it just hit me now. I just had this like moment of clarity, and I'm going to be a disaster during the playoffs. I can tell.
I'm a disaster every year during the playoffs.
This is going to be worse because it's Canadian teams. Like, the stakes are higher.
I mean, honestly, I want us, and if it's not us, I'd prefer Edmonton. God, no, Winnipeg. Sorry, I prefer Winnipeg.
Yeah, like I want all those teams to like just quit and forfeit. You know, like, I don't want any other team to go. I would tolerate Winnipeg, but no.
Me too. But if I have to choose another team who's not us, I would choose Winnipeg over.
Ugh, can't believe I don't like talking about that.
But I'm just saying, if we had to, if there was a gun at your head, God forbid.
Okay, so I'm putting a metaphorical gun to your head right now. Tell me who your contender of the week is.
Okay, just because I shat on them like 4 weeks in a row, I'll say the Sabres. Congrats on finally winning 2 games and losing one, and losing one in overtime. Congratulations, Sabres.
That's awesome. Do you have a pretender?
I do, but they're kind of the same as you. So I don't know how good this is going to be because mine are the same as you, but I will add on to yours. So McDavid still for that stupidity. I'm still not over it. And DJ Smith with his gum chewing and then throwing it into the stands. What the hell was that, buddy? First of all, keep your mask on. Second of all, somebody go into the stands, get the gum, bring it back to DJ Smith, and let him use that as an adhesive to keep the mask on his face. Okay?
That's awesome.
Like,
yeah, DJ Smith was on my pretenders list. That sucks. Like, who do you think you are? You're whipping your gum into the stands? I don't even understand why you do that. What a loser. It's like, what a loser. That's the only way to talk about it. You're a loser.
It was disgusting. I have another contender, by the way. The Montreal Canadiens, for listening to me. No. They had the 2 fans there. They had the workers, the frontline workers with their family. And I suggested that on Twitter a couple months ago. And I really, really, really appreciate that they're doing this initiative. I think it's wonderful. So good job, Habs, for doing that.
I love that.
Me too.
All right, I've got 3 contenders, 3 pretenders. Okay, I'm going to start with the pretenders because we already talked about DJ Smith being one of them. DJ Smith, you suck this week. Do better, please, in life. Second one we touched on a little bit was Sidney Crosby for his, not because he was bad, he actually had a great week, but for that awful timing to whine and dive right after you were called out for whine. Hilarious.
He didn't know he was being called out at that moment.
Oh, it happened like the day before. For sure somebody told him. For sure.
I thought it was during the game. Oh, my bad. Okay.
Brandon Dubinsky probably texted him. They're probably like buddies and he's just trolling him, you know? And then my third one is Nathan McKinnon, because as hilarious as the helmet toss was, I finally saw it. Don't do that. Just don't freaking do that. You know?
Yeah, I know. But I'm sure people excused it as, well, he's Nathan McKinnon and he's a star player and nothing ever happens to him. So he took matters into his own hand and whipped the helmet at Garland. Okay, sure.
Yeah, it sucked. You know, Connor Garland's from Montreal.
Is he?
Yep, he's a Montreal. He's a West Islander, I believe.
Really? So is Josh Anderson's father. How random is that?
I know. I knew that, but I had forgotten it. And when they talked about it on Sportsnet on Saturday, I was like, oh, yeah, that's true, which is why they grew up Habs fans, right? So
Connor Garland was born in Massachusetts, by the way.
No, or he grew up in Montreal then. I'm so confident about this that he is from Montreal. He's in Montreal. He's actually from Massachusetts, and he's actually Knuckles Nyland's godson. Okay, yeah, so that would make sense, and that's the Montreal connection. Oh, he played for it's because his dad and I think it's his dad and Knuckles played together. He played for the Montreal Wildcats in 2012. And there you go. He played for the Q. There you go. Because he is American, so I was a little bit confused about that. Okay, got it. He's only 5'10". Perfect. He burst out of nowhere last year, and we were like, "Oh, we need to watch this guy." And he's great right now, like a super underrated player right now. He has 2 seasons now back to back of being great, so maybe it's not a fluke, right? Maybe he's just a good hockey player that everyone missed. Yeah, they were talking about us getting him, and that's when Knuckles was saying on TSN 690 how it's his godson. So I went to the Winter Classic in Boston, the Montreal Boston outdoor game. Yep. And we went to the alumni game the day before, and Knuckles skated out for like the warm up or whatever, and he had a jersey custom made that was half Boston, half Montreal, and it was one of the coolest jerseys I've ever seen. I thought it was so awesome. Oh, really? Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, it was a great experience. That whole weekend was amazing. Like one of the greatest, it was the greatest hockey thing I've ever done in my entire life. That's awesome. Yeah. You took a picture of that?
The jersey?
No, I didn't. I wasn't able to, but I bet you could probably Google it. I'm sure there were so many cameras there, right?
I'm Googling it and I'm not finding it.
Well, we'll work on that. But my 3 contenders, my first one is Phil Danault for making things interesting this season. We'll talk about him at length coming up in a little bit, but he's definitely making it interesting with 8 points in his last 5 games. Second, from Twitter, one of my favorite people on Twitter, Marco D'Amico. His handle is @HockeyExpert. The reason why he's on the list is because he's the guy who coined. We were trying to come up with a name, Twitter, for the Tatar Danault Gallagher line. He's like, it's the XGF line. Let's just call it that. That's what it is. So they are now officially the XGF line, which stands for expected goals for, by the way. And my favorite contender of the week, like the number one thing, the best thing I saw this week. Did you see Erik Karlsson's press conference?
Yes, I did.
Post game, yeah. So did you see him throw the apple?
No, I saw him eat the apple.
So, like, there's 2 parts that were amazing. The first part was, like, if someone's asking a question and, like, he just, like, chucks his apple at one of the reporters. I don't know if they took a bite and threw it back to him, but, like, they threw it back to him afterwards. But he just, like, it's the most casual interview ever. And then this journalist, and I feel bad, like, Elliot Friedman mentioned it on 31 Thoughts. The journalist got roasted for asking the question. And, like, it wasn't a great question, but I don't think he deserves to be roasted for it. But anyways, the question was like, hey, Erik, you had 2 goals there, almost a hat trick. Was that the best offensive game of your career? And Karlsson doesn't skip a beat. He's just chewing his apple. He's like, not even close. Just like keeps going. It was one of the funniest things. Like, I love when hockey players show some personality. His like sarcasm and just like his deadpan attitude. It was so good. Erik Karlsson's my star of the week. Like, that was awesome.
That's the interview I saw. I didn't see the one with him throwing the apple.
It was the same one. It was like earlier in the interview, he threw the apple and then they threw it back at him. Like, he got it back.
That's a lot of people touching an apple that he's then eating. Oh my God, that's giving me COVID fears. Okay, no.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That's probably not the safest idea. Maybe he threw it to his wife or something. I don't know.
I hope so.
Well, yeah, probably with someone on the team because they're not actually throwing it to reporters because it's all via Skype, right?
Good point. I don't know. Who knows in California? Who knows with like all these weird.
Well, the Shark Tank was remember like the San Jose Sharks didn't play their first 14 games at home. Like they were on the road the whole time because they weren't allowed in their buildings. All right, fumble of the week is pretty straightforward. We talked about it. It's Connor McKenna. Just stop doing it. Just like you're better than that. Be better. Stop making COVID comments when you have no idea how COVID works, or get a degree in epidemiology and then say anything you want. Like we're okay. Fumble of the week. Get over it. You suck. Stop it. Be better.
Agreed.
So are we ready for this?
I don't know. I don't want to fight with you, but I guess I have no choice because I brought it up. So yeah.
So Ashley asked me. So I am very, very well known for being the head of the Phil Danault 1C fan club. I have been trolling Ashley for about 20 months, talking about how Phil Danault is a top line center. Today, we're going to pull back the curtains and investigate and see what that means. I'll make the case for why Phil Danault is not a third line player.
Can I just preface this with a couple things?
Of course.
Okay. First of all, it's been way longer than 20 months. Second, it feels like an eternity. Second of all, you have admitted to me that he's not actually, in fact, a number one center. Have you not?
So if I can jump off on that point if you'd like.
No, just hold on. Hold on. And then the third thing is, keep in mind who my number one centers are. And I understand we don't have a superstar.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that for sure.
Okay, but also a number one center has more than like career high 53 points when they're 27 years old and has been in the league for a while. So just saying that a number one center, in my opinion, whatever, I don't even think he's a number one center on our team right now. I understand.
So we're gonna break all that down. We're gonna go through all that. There's a lot to that. So first thing that's important is that Phil Danault last year was probably his best year, right?
I don't know. Sure.
Probably. I think that makes sense in terms of point production, everything like that. He was, to me, either a very low-end first-line center or like the best second-line center in the league. I think at no point in his time over the last 3 years has he been a third-line center. I think right now he grades out as a second-line center because this year he hasn't been great. But I want to talk about the concept of first-line center for everybody out there. I'll start talking a little faster so that you can start understanding where my head's going on this. So I'm going to start by saying the important thing about understanding a first-line center is knowing how you define a first-line center. Now, there are 2 ways to define a first-line center. that matter here. The first is a threshold of performance. So that would be like a first line center needs to score, at least 70 points, X amount of goals, and that, and that's individually measured. They are a first line center. The other way is to say that there are 31 teams in the league, soon to be 32. Your first line centers are the 31 best centers in the league. Now, either are right or wrong. There is no right or wrong is what I'm saying about that. But there are two schools of thought. If you're going with the first school of thought actually came up on The Athletic earlier today. So the reading of it was very topical. There was a proposed trade by Michael Russo's mailbag. He writes for the Minnesota Wild. It was Kaprizov in a first round pick to Buffalo for Jack Eichel. And they were evaluating the trade. And they were like, ooh, I don't know if you do that. Why would you get rid of a top line center? And an anonymous NHL executive said this: just remember, you can count on one hand how many first-line centers there are in the league. So in that executive's opinion, there are maybe 5 first-line centers in the league. So that would be like your Crosby, your McDavid, your McKinnon, your Matthews, like that. That's it. Their argument would be that the Sebastian Aho, the Jack Eichels, the Ryan O'Reillys, the Philip Danaults, etc., are not first-line centers. So by that measure, there are not even 31 first-line centers in the league. There are a handful, in which case it wouldn't be surprising that most teams don't have one of those. From there, you can expand that a little bit, and then you can try to get the Barkovs in there, the Ahos in there, right? It depends on how much you want to water down that concept of first-line center. But does that make sense so far?
Yes.
I'm of the opinion that the 31 best centers in the league are first-line centers. So for me, it's pretty straightforward. The gap between the best first-line center and the worst first-line center is insanely enormous. It's a gigantic chasm, whereas the gap between the best second-line center and the worst second-line center is very narrow. It's very tight because things get tighter as you move further down the roster. So I would say Crosby and them top-line centers, but Ryan O'Reilly is a top-line center also. What do you feel about that? There's no right or wrong to that, but what do you feel about that?
Okay, so I'm actually on NHL.com right now looking at the top centers in the league right now. Mm-hmm. And first of all, Tyler Toffoli's on there. Kind of weird. Whatever.
That's awkward.
But he's in the top 30. If you look at this list right now, Ryan O'Reilly is 12th on the list.
Yes, his point production has increased over the last couple of years. Absolutely.
I've always wanted him on our team, so I like him a lot. But I'm just saying, if you look at these people who are first-line centers, they are first-line centers. I would take any of these people on our team over Philip Danault as our first-line center. And Philip Danault's not even on the list, and I'm already at 60. By the way.
Yeah, so he's having a bad year this year, right? But so last year, Philip Danault was, at the time we stopped play, unless there was a couple of games where I miscounted, but he was 32nd out of all centers in the league for point production. So to me, that puts him just outside the 1C range. He's at the top of the 2C range, right? If you're only counting point production. Now, that's when we have to dive into the concept. Does point production matter or does goal differential matter?
He's currently 69th, by the way.
Nice.
Okay, so my opinion of a first-line center kind of involves both. And again, Philip Danault last year played with all the best point producers on our team. So he's in a position to succeed. And if he's only getting a max of 53 points a year with the best point producers on our team, to me, that's not a first-line center. Because imagine what somebody with more offensive talent could do. That's my point. Does that make sense? Could you not
make the argument that it's the other way around too? If Phil Danault had better wingers, his point production would go up too. Because don't get me wrong, Brendan Gallagher and Thomas Tatar are good top line players, but they're not Artemi Panarin. They're not Leon Draisaitl. They're not Jake Gensel, right? So I think that must go both ways in that case.
But look at what Domi did when he was playing with Shaw, and I don't remember who the other person was.
Yeah, but Domi was completely anomalous also, right? That happened one time, and now he can't even stay on the fourth line.
But I'm just saying, though, look at what he did with lesser talents. Imagine if he had Tatar and Gallagher. And that's, again, it's kind of like the whole goalie thing all over again, is that you can't really judge based on that player because it depends on it depends on so many other variables, right? So
exactly, I agree.
So that's kind of where, Philip Danault having 3 goals and 16 assists right now, if you put Kotkaniemi between Tatar and Danault and Gallagher, for 32 years, really, or 3 years, who knows how much better he would be doing, right?
Yep, and so here's the next part of this. Here's why I like the Tatar Danault Gallagher line, it's because of their expected goals for and their goal differential percentage. So what it comes down to is this. You have a choice. You can have a center who has 100 points, but you miss the playoffs, or you have a center that has 40 points, but you make the playoffs. Which player do you want?
But we haven't made the playoffs in the last 4 years with Phil Danault as our number one center. That's my point, too.
Right, but there's no argument to be made that it's that line's fault. It's quite not that line's fault.
They're the only line that can score because they're the two best wingers on the team. So, but that's still my point. If that's your number one line, you're screwed. Because
right, I'm not disagreeing with that. But answer that question: 100-point player, no playoffs, or 30-point player, playoffs?
I feel like if you have the 100-point player, you're not missing the playoffs, though.
That's not true. Happens not all, like look at the Panthers. Barkov, they can't make the playoffs. Barkov's a point per game guy.
They made the playoffs. When haven't they made the playoffs?
Florida?
Yeah.
They snuck in last year to like the bubble and they got dummied and swept. Like, does that count? I don't know.
Well, so did Toronto, and so did us almost.
Well, there you go. Look at Toronto, right? They had the best goal scorer in the league except for Ovechkin, and they couldn't qualify for the playoffs. Whereas we did not have an elite scoring talent, and we actually won a round against a 100-point Sidney Crosby.
And you know,
so this is where this comes in, right?
Wait. And the Tatar line, the Tatar line was horrible during that, and they got split up.
Yep, absolutely. It stopped working for a little bit there, right? Which is why they didn't start together this year. Not disagreeing with that at all. But so it's like, look at Mika Zibanejad right now, right? So Mika Zibanejad has he's had a 6-point game and he had a 4-point game. All those points came against the Philadelphia Flyers. Whether you win 10-1 or you win 2-1, it's still a win. It's still a W, right? So it doesn't matter how many points you score on your own, like your individual counting stats don't matter. It's how you impact team games. The Tatar Danault Gallagher line right now, the last few games, 12 goals for, 0 goals against. Now, if that concept works, if you deploy that against the 100-point Connor McDavid and you shut him down, if your line only scores 1 goal, it's still effective to win the game because you're shutting down the 100-point guy, right? The rest of the lineup does have to balance down. Don't get me wrong. But is it a bad thing that our top line is only putting up 50 to 60 points each? It is not terrible.
But it's also not wonderful. If you look at for example, Sidney Crosby, he still puts up, 70, 80, 90 points, and he shuts down the offensive top lines of the other teams. And that's my point.
He's a top 5 player in the history of the NHL.
Okay, so I could want that on my team. But that's...
Yes, absolutely. I agree. I would trade the entire roster for 29-year-old Sidney Crosby in a heartbeat. Like, I would do that, right? But, like, the XGF line doesn't hurt us. They help us win because they remove goals scored from the whatever line they're playing against. Like whatever, like they can go up against the Bergeron line and dummy them into their own zone. That is a skill set that doesn't get measured by points. And the reason why I think last year I would count Phil Danault in that 1C threshold is because he was 32nd by points, but by all the non-point metrics, he was well in the top 15 in the league. So I think that's valid to me to move him up 1 spot, even to get him into the 1C range. Now, if we're defining first-line centers as the elite players, then yeah, he's not there. He's probably never going to be there. Is what it is. But if his extra stats, his XGF gets him 1 or 2 spots up that list after his points, then yeah, he was among the 31st best centers in the league last year.
Okay, but in your opinion, Noah, honestly, okay, on our team right now with Kotkaniemi being there, Suzuki being there, Eric Stahl now being there, who, by the way, had more points than Philip Danault last year.
Yeah, he would have been the second highest scoring player on our team if he played last year. Eric Stahl is legit.
And he's 36 years old. Would you not have to admit that you do not build a team around number 1C, in your opinion, Phil Danault? If you can play Suzuki or Kotkaniemi, who now have better talent on their sides and on their wings, and it's way better, do you agree that you can put Danault on to stop their number 1 line? I don't give a crap. But our number 1 line should be either Suzuki or Kotkaniemi, and that's what you go with. And that's who you plan to utilize to score our goals. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot. That's another part of this. That was like the last piece I was about to get to as I round up this rant discussion, I guess, is that another way we have to consider the concept of first line is who they play against, right?
Right.
You can have a guy who puts up 80 points. I'm just making up a number. Don't quote me on that, right? I don't have a player comparable, but he plays against other teams' third lines. So is he really a first line center? By point production, yeah, but by the way he's used, no, right? What I like, so I don't think Montreal has a set first line, but I think the de facto first line is the Tatar, Danault, Gallagher, because they're always going to be the ones playing against the hardest competition and being successful against that hardest competition, which clears a path for KK and Suzuki's lines to feast on the lower pairings. So at the end of the day, I would hope that, like, if Danault's line scores 0 points, the other team's top line scores 0 points, but the matchups down the second and third lines of KK and Suzuki feast on their team. I don't care how many points Danault and his line gets. We're winning hockey games because our next trios are beating them, right? I think the fact that Danault plays against the best players every night pushes him up that list another maybe 1 or 2 spots, right? In terms of his value.
Now he's like a plus. He's like a number 1 CCCCC player, and absolutely not. But I think he's more of a second or third line center who is shutting down, because he's a good defensive player, so he's shutting down the opponent. And I'm fine with that. I have no issues with that whatsoever. And then we let our other lines, which are our real first line centers coming up, hopefully, who are going to exploit.
And that's the key piece to this whole Bergevin plan, right? Is that it's predicated on the idea that Kotkaniemi's line and Suzuki's line will outscore whoever they're playing against. That's key. It doesn't matter how many points they put up. Like, remember Crosby's first year in the league, the Pittsburgh Penguins still finished second to last, right? Like, they drafted Jordan Stahl after they drafted Crosby because they were putting up 6 goals a game, but getting 7 scored against them. That's not a winning strategy. And yeah, he put up 100-point season, right? So we have to make sure that Kotkaniemi and Suzuki are just as good on the defensive side of things. Otherwise, the whole plan goes to shit.
No, for sure. But I think that you and I are in agreement. Yeah, we're in agreement that he's not really a number 1 center in terms of his production. However, he is able to stop the biggest 1Cs, so therefore it's better for us.
And you know what's funny is, like, when I think about Phil Danault, the player that comes closest to mind for a comparable is Thomas Plekanec.
Yeah.
Because he was a first-line center, but we're always like, is he really a first-line center? I don't know, but, like, he does really well, right? It's in that same vein, like, right at the edge. You hope that there's a better center than him on your team. Absolutely, right? Like, we hope that KK and Suzuki grow to be better than Phil Danault, 100%. But as far as first lines go, in terms of your win-loss record, Phil Danault's line doesn't hurt us.
No, I agree. I just don't like the fact that everyone thinks that he's like a legit first-line center when his stats are not supported by that. That's all. But also, Thomas Plekanec had higher than a 53-point season. So
he had a 71-point season, I think it was, or 78, was it? No, 71. Playing with the Kovalev year, the AK 27 line. He had a
70-point season. And he actually was very, like, good one year, bad the next year, good one year. He was like very
clockwork, yeah.
Yeah. So he had a 69-point season. He had a 52, a 60, a 54. So
like, I would love to see Phil Danault get a really, really like an Artemi Panarin level winger and see what that does for Mike. Look at Mika Zibanejad. Mika Zibanejad was not a first line center, and he doesn't even play with Panarin exclusively. But when he does get on the ice with Panarin, they just destroy the universe together, right? Like I think, like, again, like when I say we need an elite talent, I don't know if we need an elite center. I think we need an elite player, right? And I think Danault would be good enough that an elite winger with him could elevate his game to that level. And like they could complement each other, possibly, if it's the right fit, of course. Like, don't get me wrong. But I definitely agree with you when you say we need elite talent. Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to see that elite talent play with Suzuki or Kotkaniemi way before he even touches Phil Danault's wing, personally. I think those two would fly, especially Suzuki with his passing ability and especially Kotkaniemi with his passing ability. They both are amazing with that. So I would rather they get a chance at the elite. I really want to see Caulfield come in and play with Kotkaniemi or Suzuki. I don't care which one. I think they play more. That's what I want. I want to see him come up here I would love Perry, Kotkaniemi, Caulfield, and see both of them just feeding the pass to Caulfield. It'd be beautiful.
The interesting thing is, as we round this out, is that there's a very real possibility that next year our team's forward core looks totally different.
Well, that's because like 4 of them are going to be gone. Or
like Stahl is going to walk, Armia is going to walk, Tatar's probably going to walk, Danault may or may not walk. That's the one we're kind of like we're not sure, but like that price tag really matters, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Paling, Ullinen, Caulfield. Like you got people banging on the doors down there, right? So it should be interesting, but I really think that just reinforces the idea you got to freaking go for it this year.
I agree. Do you think they're going to make a trade before April 12th?
I don't know. I think they should, but I don't know if they will.
For who? Dunn?
It depends on the price. I don't think Dunn hurts us. I just don't think Dunn's like, I don't see Dunn coming on this team and then being like, that was the piece we needed. That was the missing piece, you know? So
who is the piece that we need in your opinion? Name me a forward and defenseman. Go.
Do they have to be realistic, or am I just like making up a name, like just whoever I want? Well, like kind of. I mean, it could be whoever you want, but like that we can don't say like Sidney Crosby. We're not getting him. Okay, so for forwards, here are some names I'm going to throw out that I think would be well served by playing for us. First up, probably unrealistic, but not insane. Johnny Gaudreau. Okay. I just don't feel like Calgary's gonna try to fight for a playoff spot. But they clearly are tearing this thing down next year, right? Like there's no way they're going into the season next year with that top line again. So there might be an opportunity there. And he's Canadian. He's in the Canadian division, so we don't even have to wait. Exactly, right? There's an opportunity there, but that salary cap is really hard to fit. There'd have to be something going back the other way. Like I don't know if there was some money retained by them. What about Phil Kessel? Ooh. Okay. Power play specialist, goal scoring machine. Not bad. He really reminds me of a groundhog. Yeah. Because it's, like that Puxatowny Phil. You're totally right. He reminds me of a groundhog. And it's because of I think it's Puxatowny Phil, like that groundhog who's every year on February 2nd. Yep. Yeah, yep. So his name is Phil. And it reminds me of Phil Kessel. I don't know why. That's funny. Yeah, I've got 2 more. Do you remember who I wanted at the start of this year to be a Hab? Oh. There's one player that I was saying we should target all season long. Well, Eric Stahl is like your dream, but what team? Or give me a hint. Pacific Division, now the West Division. I don't think he's getting traded anymore because this team is really going hard for the Cup. Oh, why am I not remembering who this is? It's not. Wait, I do know who it is. Hold on. Oh crap! I do know who it is. This is gonna be so long. Shit. Plays for Vegas. Oh, I want Alex Tuck, but you don't. No. Not Marchessault. Nope. Riley Smith. Oh yes, sorry. Yes, you have. I would love to see Riley Smith as a Hab. I think that's a great fit. Not a game breaker, but I like it. And then my last one is for forward that I think is interesting that I would be very curious to see. I'm sure I'm going to get roasted for saying it, but I'd be so curious. Evander Kane. He is a gamer hard, right? Like he brings it in the playoffs. Yeah. If you're looking for a guy to do a playoff run, the only problem is managing his contract afterwards, right? Yeah. Like that's the challenge. But if you want a guy who can come in and really beat people into a playoff victory, I think Evander Kane would be a great fit. And then on defense, I'm going to throw some names out. Ryan Murray's interesting. I don't think we can make his cap fit hit. He's always injured though. Yeah, but he's a UFA at the end of this year, right? So you take him and you try to give a gamble. When he's healthy, he's good, and he's been fine this year so far. Right. Phil, you look at Gostis Bear. I don't know. Maybe, right? I'd rather Provorov. David Savard from Columbus is interesting. I'm a big David Savard truther. He would be your third pair right D, and it would be the best third pairing in the league with him and Romanov. Nick Holden, he's available. I'll take him. So Nick Holden's story. Every time I hear the name Nick Holden, I think of a TV show called White Collar because one of the aliases on the show was Nick Holden. That's funny. Every time. Yeah, those are the players that I would dig into. Well, I would like to get Alex Tuck if that was available. I would jump all over that. That's not happening. We have his brother. Exactly, but he's good. His brother's not. So. I know. I really like Tuck. I've been a huge Tuck fan for a while, so damn. All right, we're rounding out there. We've been talking for a while now. We'll end it off by talking about your hottie of the week. Exactly. Sherratt or not? Who do you got?
Okay, so if I haven't mentioned him already, we're going to go with Henrik Lundqvist, but I might have already mentioned him. So in that case, I'll put another player who's currently playing. He's a big piece of crap. However, Tom Wilson is very attractive.
Tom Wilson's a good-looking guy. It's too bad he's such a douchebag because he could be on a magazine cover if he wanted to be.
Yeah, like GQ all the way. Actually, when he got drafted, my uncle was at my parents' house, and he came into a room, and he was like, "Did Tom Wilson go yet?" And I was like, "Yeah, the Caps took him." He's like, "Oh, his mom works with me." It's like, that's so weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, very weird. But he's really attractive. So, Tom Wilson, you're my hottie of the week. Even though you're dirty, but yeah.
All right, and that's a wrap for this week. Well, thanks everyone for coming out and joining us, and we'll be talking to you on our weekend one-timer coming up next week.
Please make sure you subscribe to our podcast on all podcast apps. Also, check out our social media at FumblePuckPod, except on Facebook, where it's at FumblePuckPodcast. You can also reach us by email at ashley@FumblePuckPod.com or Noah with an H at FumblePuckPod.com. And we'll be having a website that'll hopefully be around in about May-ish or so, June. We'll see, hopefully.
Woo!
Our question of the week, Noah. Do you have one or do you want me to go?
Go for it.
Our question of the week. Who do you want the Habs to acquire before April 12th? That is our question.
Love it.
All right. Have a wonderful night or day or whenever you're listening to this, everybody. Go Habs, go. Let's hope we win the next 4 games we're recording in the middle of it, but let's hope we win the next 4 games anyways. Canucks, get well soon. I hope you guys are okay.
Cheers, everybody.